episode 17 of the Dorton and Doetkott Debate podcast. I am Lucas Dorton, and I am joined by Nick Doetkott. Nick, there is something similar about your outfit from last week, and there is something that is different. Now, the similar thing I think people can tell, that is the Jackie Moon type band that you are wearing with your nice fro there. And then something different. You want to show the folks at home what you're wearing?
Well, first off, you got the headband. You got to have the matching wristbands, Dorton.
True.
And then, for all you ladies out there, big girl, single. We'll see if I can get the bags on, but.
There we go. Call me.
Yes.
Hey, girl, call me.
Available. All I'm going to say.
Oh, man, that is funny. For the ladies at home, I got to say that you want a guy, obviously we talked about commitment, him being a Minnesota sports fan, and Minnesota sports fans don't win too much. So he's committed. He commits to his team. But also, the matching, I mean, come on. The matching wristbands along with the headband, I mean, he's not going to embarrass you in public with what he's wearing either. So, ladies at home, you got to give him a chance. You absolutely have to give Mr. Doetkott a chance. That is going to be my goal every single podcast until Mr. Doetkott is in a relationship.
Well, I'll try to come through on that, but if you're gonna go until I get a girlfriend, you might be promoting this for quite a while, but we'll try. Call me, ladies. I'm available.
That's right. He's available. Hey, you got to try. I mean, no sports going on. The ladies have got to think about something, and if they see that face on your shirt there, who knows? Who knows?
Hey,
you might have a chance.
You can't score if you don't take the shot. You can't score if you don't take the shot.
Right?
You bet. You bet.
That has probably got to be, honestly, the best shirt I've probably ever seen in my entire life. 100%.
So here's the plan. I got 20 tickets to a Twins game, right? If they ever happen, we'll see. I got to wear this. The plan is to get on the big screen with this one at least one time, or at a T-Wolves game. And then I'm also planning on going. I don't know if I'll wear the shirt, but I'm gonna have a sign that says "In need of woman for Kiss Cam." And then when Kiss Cam comes out, you throw that sign out.
Oof.
Oh, I'm telling you, it's gonna work, Jordan. It's gonna work.
Flock to you.
It's gonna work. Oh yeah, they see the fro, they're just gonna flock. I mean, they're just gonna flock, Jordan. Trust me.
I'm jealous. If that works out, I may do the same thing for my face too, just to see. Oh, that's awesome.
I'll let you know.
But anyways, again, on a little bit more of a serious note, kind of sad news coming out of the NHL world today. Former Boston Bruin and Edmonton Oilers player Colby Cave passed away at the age of 25 to a brain bleed. He was in a coma for 2 days. Eventually, it kind of took the best of him with the brain bleed. That he wasn't quite able to overcome that. Obviously, very sad for a number of reasons, especially his family. They weren't able to see him and visit him during the time with the coronavirus going around. They weren't letting people in there. So that is obviously very sad as well. It just kind of goes to show that doesn't matter if you're a high-level athlete like he is, or if you're just a regular person like you and I are, that life can be taken away at any moment. So it's just good to remember that and kind of live every day to the fullest, because you never know what's going to happen. But yeah. So we will move on from that. But so we have a couple exciting things. Obviously, today's podcast is a fun one. We're doing another top 10 list, and it is going to be the top 10 current Major League Baseball players, so ones that are playing right now. Next week, though, be on the lookout. We're going to be doing a break in our top 10 series, so don't worry if you're a fan of that. That will come back. But next week's episode is going to be an NFL pre-draft episode that Caleb Sipe will be joining the show. If you guys remember Caleb Sipe, he was the one when we first did the Major League Baseball, the team reviews. Caleb Sipe came on for the Twins. He was the very first person that we had came on. So he is a phenomenal college football mind. He knows a ton about college football. We are each going to be giving our first round mock drafts for this upcoming NFL draft. So that should be fun. So definitely be on the lookout for that next week when we record for that. That'll be such a fun time. I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, me as well. I mean, I'll be honest. I watch college football. I know the players, but as far as mock draft, I wouldn't necessarily call myself that knowledgeable of the fact of which, cornerback's better than this one, for instance. But I mean, I know the players, I know what team needs, and I'm really looking forward to this because one, it should just be fun to give it a try. And two, I think this is, like I said, maybe the biggest draft for the Vikings in the last decade at least. And the Vikings have 2 first-round picks. So I'm looking forward to the NFL draft. For one, it's the first, I guess you could say, live sports thing we have in a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to what the Vikings are going to do. And then for you, the Dolphins, they have 3 first-round picks, and I'll give you a hint. I think that my prediction for the Dolphins' first pick is Tua, so that's obviously going to get some excitement. So I'm looking forward to it.
I really am too. That's a great point that you mentioned too. It definitely is the first sporting thing that we actually have going on. They've been for a while now, and probably for the future, probably will be for a while. So really looking forward to that. Again, a huge draft for the Dolphins as well too. Like you mentioned, 3 first-round picks. Hopefully we can hit on them. But nonetheless, really looking forward to next week to see what Caleb has to say, to see what we have to say, and it should be a fun episode to record. But nonetheless, Mr. Doetkott, are you ready to get into the top 10 Major League Baseball players right now?
I am ready. Play ball.
Play ball. All right, so let's just get right into it here. So, Nick, who do you have at number 10 on your list?
I have Ronald Acuna Jr. At number 10. Now, to be honest, the only reason I have him at 10 and not higher is because he's only played 2 years. Like, for instance, this season, I mean, hopefully we have a season and a long one. I think there's a very good chance he could be top 5 in baseball, statistically. So you could argue, well, maybe I should have put him at top 5 then. But just for the fact he's only played 2 years and, as of yet, numbers-wise, he hasn't necessarily matched up with, the Trouts and the Bellingers and whatnot. I have him at 10. But I think he has the best chances of increasing on this list as anybody. And the dude's a stud already after 2 seasons. So I have him at number 10.
Okay. I have him on my list. I don't have him at 10. I have him on my list, so I'm obviously not going to spoil that now. He is already, and even like you mentioned, you didn't put him up more spaces just because he's only been in the league for a couple seasons. I think it's really cool the fact that he has only been in the league for 2 seasons, and he's already broken into the top 10 for both of us, and probably many other people too that might be doing this type of list. I think is absolutely shows just the amount of potential that this guy truly has. I picked him MVP for this season that should be going on. It's currently not going on. But an absolutely phenomenal player, and at such a young age, the potential is through the roof for him.
Oh, yeah. I think this guy, him and Juan Soto, I think, 2 outfielders in the same division, I think they could be running the league pretty soon. Absolutely.
Yeah, Juan Soto, you could very much make an argument if you wanted to put him in your top 10. I don't have him in mind.
I thought about it, but also I actually went 11 through 20 just because I wanted to do it for fun because there were so many guys I could have easily put in the top 10 that I didn't, and I have Juan Soto at 13. So, okay. I think he's already approaching top 10 territory.
And that's a kind of a point too that I wanted to bring up. When you were making this list, did you find that it was a lot easier to number 1 to 5, so the top 5 versus the 6 to 10? Because I thought it was easier to do that.
Definitely. So, for instance, I just kind of looked at MLB.com's top 10 just for reference point. Not that I was going to use theirs, but just for reference point. And then I just kind of wrote down my 1 through 10 just off the top of my head. And then I went and took all the guys I thought could be in the top 10 and found their stats over the last 3 years just to compare them and whatnot. And after all that, when I compiled my final list, 1 through 5 was pretty much just a write-in. You could change the order around a little bit, but it was pretty obvious who was in the top 5. 6 through 10, and specifically like 8 through 10, were very, very hard because I think the guys are just so close, And 6 through 10 could be like, well, I'll say 7 through 10 could easily mix them around so many ways. I had difficulties there, but my 1 through 5 was actually quite easy. So yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. And we'll find too, obviously, and we're discussing players throughout this that narrowly missed or on any other person's list could very well be in the top 10. It just really goes to show how many extremely solid players there are in MLB. But anyways, at number 10 for me, I have Garrett Cole at 10 from the New York Yankees now. Obviously was on the Astros last season. But I have Garrett Cole at 10. To me, it's hard for me to put pitchers in a top 10 list just because the amount of impact that they have on the season can be big, but generally they're only contributing in about 30 to 35 games a season for a starting pitcher. Now, Garrett Cole obviously is one that kind of breaks this threshold because he is one of not just the best pitchers, but one of the best players in the game as well, too. So I have him at number 10. Obviously, when this season starts, hopefully it does, we'll actually get to see Cole perform this season to kind of justify that a little bit.
I mean, I'll tell you what. You're right about the pitchers and impact. They only play 5 games, or most of them starters every 5th game, whereas a starting position player, for instance, might be out there every single game. But come playoff time, it's completely different. Let's just take, for instance, my 10 and your 10, Acuna Jr. and Garrett Cole. And I think both of them are very, very good. But if you say, all right, World Series time, you get to pick one of these 2 players to have on your team, who are you taking? I'm taking Garrett Cole. Even if I thought Acuna Jr. was slightly better, which I don't, by the way, but even if I did, I'm taking the pitcher because, you're playing a 7-game series. They're going to pitch game 1, maybe game 3, but most likely game 4, and then they're probably going to be good to go for at least a relief appearance in game 7, like Bumgarner against the Royals, for instance. He won games 1 and 4 and then pitched 5 innings of relief in game 7 to seal it. So, in my opinion, pitchers are the more valuable asset in playoff time. So it kind of depends where you look at it. And I can tell the difference of this list, I think, between ours is definitely going to be pitchers. I'm a little higher on pitchers than most. I rank them a little higher. I didn't necessarily look at impact between the 2 pitchers and hitters. I mainly just looked at best, like, let's just take, for instance, the best pitcher and the best hitter. Is this guy a better pitcher than this guy is a hitter? If I think yes, then I put him higher. Not necessarily impact. But I do agree with you on the impact in regular season, but playoff-wise, completely different. I'd rather have the starters as opposed to position players.
Right. Right. I agree with you. That's a good point that you bring up. I think if we were to make a top 10 list for just who you want in the playoffs, I think the majority of both of our lists, I would probably say, would probably be pitchers. There'd be some hitters mixed in on there, but the majority of them would probably be starting pitchers.
Yeah, and speaking of that, last year, I believe, might have been MLB.com or TBS, I don't know, somebody who had the playoff game did a list like that, kind of. I can't remember if it was World Series or like who they take. And I wish off the top of my head I could remember how highly the pitchers were as compared to others, but we should do that come playoff time because I think that would be very interesting. I would lean starters. I would go heavy starters if we're talking playoffs.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. Hopefully there is a season to do that so we can do a playoff.
Right.
But nonetheless.
I tell you what, I played catch today. I mean, I barely even gotten outside lately, to be honest. But I went to the baseball field and played some catch. Oh, my God. It was good to get out, but it just made me miss baseball even more, man.
Yeah,
miss it so bad.
I feel that. Like, you want to go outside, you want to play catch, do those fun things, but also you kind of don't, because then it reminds you of a season that should be being played right now.
Right, dude. I missed it. I miss it so bad. And throwing that ball around, just like to think I could be doing this with 20 other people here for practice, but no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
Anyways, who did you have at number 9?
Well, you might not be very happy with me. I did put him in the top 10, but 9 was as high as I could go. Nolan Arenado.
Oh,
I put him at 9.
no.
I know. Now, I'll be honest. Like 3 hours ago, I would have thought I'd have him higher. But when I really sat down and compared it, I just couldn't put him higher than 9. The fact that he's 7 for 7 in Gold Gloves, which, by the way, is unbelievable. It almost had me. I almost put him up because of that. But I think I probably don't value defense as much as I should. I don't value it as much as others do. I can tell you that. But regardless, the dude's a great hitter. I mean, he batted 315 and 379 last year, or with the 379 on base percentage. By the way, these stats are baseforreference.com, all of them that I'll mention, so they're accurate. But I just comparing it, I don't know. I just couldn't put him above the 8 I have ahead of him. I don't want to give out all the names to ruin it, but I couldn't do it, man. But he's too good not to have in the top 10, so he's at 9.
Well, I'm glad you're giving him the respect by putting him in the top 10. But I think by the time this episode is over, I might have to put out a new application to replace you on the.
Hey now. He's in the top 10.
Arenado is offensively is up there with some of the best in the game. I think we can both agree with that for sure. Defensively, too, one of, if not the best defender in baseball. I mean, not only with his 7 straight Gold Gloves in 7 years, but he's also won 3 straight Platinum Glove awards too.
Yeah.
Which definitely says a lot. Which is the best defender out of your league is what that award. Well, it's not every position gets that award.
Yeah.
I believe Matt Chapman got it last year for the AL. Nolan got it for the last 3 years for the NL.
Buxton got it 1 year, I think 2 or 3 years ago for the Twins.
Sure, but I'm not going to defend him a lot. I obviously have Arenado higher, so once I get to that point in my list, I will defend him more. But at 9, I have Alex Bregman. For me, I think, and maybe you too, I don't know, I think you have to put 2 of at least one of the 3 in the top 10 between Nolan Arenado, Alex Bregman, and Anthony Rendon. For me, obviously, I think Arenado was a no-brainer, so he was a no-doubter in my top 10. So then it came, who was better between Bregman and Rendon? I will say I don't think one is significantly better than the other. I think it's a very close margin, but I think Bregman has been a little bit more consistent for a little longer. Rendon these last couple seasons has balled out. I mean, we obviously saw what he did postseason in the World Series last year for the Nationals, but I think Bregman has just been a little more consistent. Not to say that Rendon isn't deserving of a top 10 position. He 100% is. I think you can ask 100 different people, between Bregman and Rendon, who you're going to have in your top 10. And I don't think you're going to have same answers across the board. I don't think it's going to be significant one way or the other. Yeah. I just think Bregman is a little bit better.
I guess I'll just jump right in at number 8 because my number 8 is Alex Bregman. So to your point, Bregman, Arenado, Rendon. You could really, honestly, you could go any order. You could go Bregman, Arenado, Rendon, Bregman, Arenado, Bregman, Rendon. I mean, you could do anything. I actually, I extend my list out a little bit. I have Rendon at 11, so just missing the cut. Whereas I have Bregman and Arenado 8 and 9. Now, all 3 of them are very good offensively. Rendon probably was better than Arenado offensively this last season. Overall, who is? I'm not sure. I mean, Arenado is definitely the better defender of the 3, but all 3 of them are good defenders.
Right.
They're all really, really good. But so it's, I mean, they could go any order, but I decided to go Bregman 8, Arenado 9, Rendon 11. And now, if you ask me, like 2 weeks ago, I think I even told you, I think Arenado is the best, or it was longer ago than that, but I had told you, I think Arenado is the best third baseman in baseball. But like I said, when I sat down and looked at the list, the stats, and just thought about it, I had to put Bregman above Arenado just slightly. I mean, the fact that Arenado's 7 for 7 Gold Gloves is reason enough to put him ahead of Bregman. I, however, didn't, but I almost did because of it. But just look at the stats. I mean, they each hit 41 home runs last year. Arenado's over the last 3 seasons has hit way more home runs, but I think Bregman's starting to become that power hitter. They're very similar in most of their stats, but Bregman is far better on base percentage. Like last year, he had a 44 points higher on base percentage. So it depends how much you weigh that. I think the main thing is Bregman's much better on base. Arenado's the much better defender. It depends which one you weigh more. I decided to go Bregman 8, Rendon 9, but they're very, very close. They're darn near equal. So,
yeah. And I think I always kind of look at it, if I'm struggling with between a couple people, if I'm starting a team, which player would I want more to be a part of that team? And at third base, obviously, me being biased, maybe not biased, I don't think I am. Maybe I'm a little bit. I would pick Arenado. But realistically, at the end of the day, if you picked Rendon, if you pick Bregman or Arenado, one of the three, you're not going to go wrong with it. I mean, you truly could pick any single one of those guys to be your franchise third baseman because they're all that good.
Yeah. And there's other really good third basemen like Chapman and Devers, for instance.
Yep.
But those three, Arenado, Bregman, and Rendon, are definitely the cream of the crop. And like I said, you could go any order with them. I mean, they're just all that good.
So for
it's
my
the golden age of MLB third baseman right now, really.
Absolutely. So at number 8 for me, I have Jacob deGrom. I think he is the best pitcher in baseball right now. Obviously, he's won back-to-back Cy Young awards, which is not an easy thing to do. I think at times, obviously the awards speak for themselves, but I think at times when it comes to evaluating where he fits amongst the best in the game, I think he gets a tad overlooked at times. I don't think a lot, but I think at times he can be, just for the fact that the New York Mets offensively are not a good team. They are not a good team when it comes to offense. So it's unfortunate because there's a lot of games that he's pitched in the last few seasons, pretty much his whole career, where if he gives up 1-2 runs, normally for any other pitcher, okay, yeah, you're keeping us in the game, you're pitching great. But for the Mets, that might be enough to lose you the game just because the offense is just not that good.
Yeah.
But deGrom have a number 8.
For instance, the last 2 years, Jacob deGrom has in 2018 a 1.7 ERA, which led the majors, I believe, and last year at 2.43. Well, he was 10-9 in 2018 and 11-8 in 19. That's 21-17 over the last 2 years. And remind you, I believe he broke the MLB record between those 2 years for most consecutive quality starts, which was like almost 30 or something like that.
It's something like that, yeah.
And by the way, the Twins just absolutely rocked him last year, and I think they ended it. So, what now, deGrom? Garver hit a home run off him twice. Anyways, although the measurement for a quality start I think is a little loose, 6 innings, 3 earned, a 4.5 ERA, not bad, but not that great. It's a little loose, but typically, if you throw a quality start, you're supposed to have a good shot at getting a win. Well, he broke the major league record for most consecutive, and he only has 21 wins to show for in the last 2 years with 17 losses. So, yeah, if he were a Yankee or a Red Sox or even honestly, even like a National now compared to the Mets.
Any other team.
Yeah. I mean, I think people would realize just how dominant this guy is.
Yeah. I think there's another guy that you could potentially for pitchers. So another spoiler, those are my only 2 pitchers I have. So I only have Garrett Cole, I only have Jacob deGrom. If you wanted to, I think you could make an argument for a Max Scherzer. I think he's top 15. I don't know where. I mean, probably in the 11 to 15 range. I don't know where in that range he would be, but you could certainly make an argument that he could be on your top 10 too, because the guy is a phenomenal pitcher as well.
I have Scherzer at 16 just because I think, obviously, the dude's still really good. I'd say he's probably about the fourth best starter in majors, maybe 5 with Buehler coming up.
Sure.
I think Scherzer's maybe on the decline, the beginning of the end, so I have him at 16. But like back to DeGrom, I have him higher on my list just because I have pitchers ranked a little higher than you do. Nothing wrong with that. It's just the way it ended up. But I also think DeGrom's the best pitcher in baseball. You ask me one day, I might say Cole. Another day, I might say DeGrom. But I think Jacob DeGrom has a slight edge, and I think Jacob DeGrom is the best pitcher in baseball. Two Cy Youngs in a row. I mean, that should tell you enough right there.
Who do you have at 7?
Another pitcher, I believe the third best pitcher in baseball, Justin Verlander. To be honest, before I made this list, I did not expect to have Verlander on it, but I just kind of, took like 20, 25 players, looked at their stats just to make sure, if anything popped out at me, maybe I'd switch up my initial thinking. Well, looking at Verlander's stats, it led me to do that. I did not realize how dominant he's been the last 2 years. He had 2.52 and a 2.58 ERA the last 2 seasons. Led the AL in WHIP both years. Innings pitched last year. Strikeouts 2 years ago. In wins last year at 21-6. And although I think I would have voted for Cole last year for Cy Young, Verlander definitely did deserve it. And, he had deserving numbers, and he won the AL Cy Young last year. So Verlander is still at like 36 or 37 years old, dominant. And I think I had to put him in my top 7 for what he's displayed the last 2 years.
You talk about a guy that, we talk a lot on the podcast of how sometimes a change of scenery can benefit a player's career. Justin Verlander is absolutely that case. He was, don't get me wrong, a phenomenal pitcher with Detroit. Won many awards there with Detroit, but those last couple of years when he was in Detroit, he was not, he wasn't terrible, but he wasn't putting up those ace numbers, wasn't the best pitcher, and then got traded to Houston and completely like he was starting over his career again. Last year, like you mentioned, obviously Garrett Cole won the Cy Young, but you very well could have given it to Justin Verlander if you wanted to.
No, Verlander actually did win.
You're not going to go wrong with either one there.
Verlander actually did win Cy Young. I would have voted for Cole.
Or sorry,
Verlander
yeah.
actually,
Verlander.
Verlander,
yeah.
Verlander did win it. And if you go by WAR, some people buy into that, some don't. Verlander had the higher WAR, 7.3 as compared to Cole, 6.5. But I personally would have voted for Cole just considering the last 3 months. He displayed maybe the best 3 months of pitching we've ever seen in our lives. Right. But Verlander still obviously was very good, and for that he won the Cy Young. So yeah, both those two are very good. Like I said, for what Verlander's done the last 2 years, I had to put him up there, and I put him at 7. So I got him pretty high.
So for my number 7, I have a shortstop. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to 2 of them. I think it comes down to Trevor Story or Francisco Lindor. At the end of the day, I don't think you're going to go wrong with having either one of those guys as your starting shortstop. But I have Francisco Lindor in that 7th spot, kind of for the reason where Trevor Story these last few seasons has been outstanding. He's been phenomenal. I just think Francisco Lindor has been a little consistent for a little bit longer. But I don't think Story is far on the outside. I think we're doing a top 10 list. I think he's 100% 11, maybe 12. Give it a couple seasons, and I think he is in the top 10. Who knows? Maybe some people have him in the top 10 now. I'd be okay with that. No complaints from me. I have.
I guess I'm glad you put Lindor in here because it gives us a little controversy. I actually, call me a hater because he's an Indian and I'm a Twins fan, but I don't even think Lindor is a top 20 player, if I'm going to be honest. Now, shortstops. There's a lot of really good shortstops in the majors. A lot of them. I don't think any of them crack the top 10 though. I just don't think they're good enough. I do think Trevor Story is the best shortstop in baseball. So maybe that gives me a little bit of redemption from Arenado at 9. But I think that puts him at about 15. I actually think Xander Bogaerts is the second best shortstop in baseball. But Lindor, he does have 2 Gold Gloves. So, I mean, defensively, he's got a good argument. Although Story's a great defender, too. But, I mean, let me just tell you Lindor's stats over the last 3 seasons. So, 273, 277, and 284 batting average. That's good, but, I mean, that's nothing great. And, you know, a lot of these really good players are like Judge, for instance, bats about in the 270 range. Well, he's got on base percentages of like 390 and 400. Well, Lindor's got 337, 352, and 335. So that's not even that high of an on base percentage. The dude does hit a lot of home runs, 33, 38, and 32. But and like I said, it's not all about stats, but like and he steals a lot of bases. I mean, the dude's a 5-tool player, but so does Story. And I just don't think Lindor is as good as people say. He does good against the Twins, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not as big of a Lindor guy as others are.
Yeah, that's fair. I just think that, you know, obviously the average certainly is not where it should be, but I just think if this guy's on the field, you know you're going to have a extremely high chance to win. Not to say you wouldn't with Story either or Xander Bogart. I think, though, it's fair to say that during that World Series run and the postseason run, Francisco Lindor probably was one of the main guys there. I mean, he was a huge person on that team as to why they had success. But like I said, give it a season or two, and Story is ahead of Lindor. I don't think it's a huge margin, but I think Story's right there. That's for sure.
And like I said, I already have Story ahead of him. So yeah, Story's a stud. I didn't even realize how good that dude is till this last season. I mean, he's good.
Oh yeah. Who'd you have?
In all honesty, you could. I mean, Arenado's the best player in the Rockies, and I know, at nine, you probably think that's a little low, but you could honestly, especially I think after this next season, make an argument even for Story over Arenado. I think Story is just getting better and better. Story's one day going to be really, really good, I think. So,
I will say that Story has definitely the speed factor over Arenado. Arenado's not the fastest guy in the world. Story can run.
Yeah. The left side of the infield for Colorado just isn't even fair. At least you got one thing there in Colorado. You got a left side of the infield.
Yeah. That was a fun infield. Obviously, Arenado and Story, and then we had DJ LeMahieu at second base, and then we had when Morneau and Mark Reynolds when they were both there, also both pretty solid as well too. Yeah. But who'd you have at 6?
So at number 6, I have the first of 2 Dodgers on my list, Mookie Betts at 6. Now his numbers offensively in terms of like batting average and home runs aren't quite with like some other guys around this area. Maybe, I mean, 2 years ago he batted 346, led the AL. I mean, that's insane, but he only batted 295 last year with 29 home runs, which is obviously solid, but considering his on-base percentage is insane, 438 and 391 the last 2 years, the dude walks a lot. He's led the AL in runs the last 3 years, which sometimes it's just a product of the offense you're on, where you're in the lineup. I get that. But the dude gets on base. He steals bases. He's a great base runner, obviously. And the only person that I've listed, I got like 25 people in front of me with stats. The only one who's won more Gold Gloves than Betts is Arenado. Betts has won 4 Gold Gloves the last 4 seasons. So defensively, he's probably the best defender in the outfield in the majors. And with the numbers he puts up consistently as a hitter, he very rarely misses games. He won an MVP 2 years ago. I mean, the dude's just an all-around great baseball player. If he hit a little more home runs, maybe he'd be higher, but I have him at 6.
Sure. I really like Mookie Betts. I don't think I'm going to have to be able to like him anymore because now he's on the Dodgers. I don't know if he'll be on the Dodgers past this season. There's a lot of things going around that potentially maybe Boston tried to get rid of him only to bring him back again in the offseason. I don't know. I don't know about that. But nonetheless, maybe this season doesn't happen and I won't have to watch Betts rake against the Rockies. But I hope it does. I would rather have Betts rake against the Rockies and have no MLB.
Right. I tell you what, though, if Betts and Bellinger are with each other for like 5 years,
Oh,
my goodness. Not to mention that I'm a big guy when it comes to like your righty on left, like for pitching, I'm big on righty and lefty. So like righty lefty advantages, I'm really big on that. Well, Betts is a righty and Belly's a lefty. So to put those two, you say back to back your lineup, one's a righty, one's a lefty. They're both in the outfield. They both won Gold Gloves last year. I mean, jeepers, criminy. They could be really scary.
So for me at 6, I have Ronald Acuna.
Okay.
I think that he's already broken into the top 6. Yeah, I mean, you can make an argument top 5 really if you wanted to. The guy can really do it all. He can hit for average. He can hit home runs. Plays really solid defense. He can steal bases. He's got a great arm. And I think that, obviously, like I said before, I had him as my NL MVP for this season. The season does happen. But I think he's already broken into that stardom. And when you think of the Atlanta Braves, obviously Ozzie Albies is solid. Dansby Swanson, Freddie Freeman, Soroka. They have a lot of really young, solid players. But I think Acuna is the best of them. And I think he personally is one of the best in baseball. And if I'm making an outfield, he's borderline. I think he's either for best outfields in baseball. I think he's either just in or he's just out. And I have Bellinger on here too, but it just kind of depends on is Bellinger playing first base or outfield. Is really what it comes down to.
There is so many good outfielders right now. That's the only reason why it's even a debate. But, Acuna Jr. is, 2 years? He's got 2 years under his belt, and he already looks like one of the best in baseball. I have him at 10. You have him at 6. I mean, this dude is going to be an absolute beast, and it's going to be fun to watch him. Thankfully, he's in the National League, so I don't have to see him very often.
Yeah, you notice a trend. All of these players, for the most part, are in the National League. For the most part. Obviously, Moore isn't. Bregman and Cole aren't. Dumb.
Right.
All right. Who did you have? Now we're breaking into the top 5. Who do you have at 5?
I have the other Dodger one of the other Dodger outfielders. I have Bellinger at 5.
Okay.
Now, honestly, if you really wanted to, I mean, I know most people are going to have Trout at 1. Honestly, you can make an argument for Bellinger being as high as 1 or 2 at the very least. I mean, the dude's a stud. He won MVP last year. But without giving away the 4 I have ahead of him, I just don't know if he's quite with them. You could, like I said, 1 through 5, I think was pretty obvious for me who it was. The order you could shuffle around a little bit, but Bellinger's clearly top 5. And I mean, the dude's just he's the perfect example of a 5-star, of a 5-tool player. When he came up as a rookie, I remember I'm like, oh my gosh, this dude is unbelievable. But I just, because he just was hitting home run after home run, kind of like Judge was his rookie year. Yeah. But it wasn't really till last year even that I realized how good of a player he is. Like, not just a home run hitter. He won a Gold Glove. He had 15 stolen bases last year, so nothing special, but still 15. The dude's got a cannon of an arm. I mean, just an absolute missile from center field. And last year, he had a 406 on base percentage. He did only bat 305, but for the first, 2 months, he was darn near batting 400, it seemed like, with 47 home runs, 121 runs. And the dude pretty much never misses a game. And I have a question for you. How much does games played matter in this? Because some people may say, well, you can't control injuries, so just because a guy's getting injured, I'm not going to use it against him. But at the same time, there's the quote, the best ability is availability. And if you can't stay healthy, even if you might be better talent-wise than someone, are you I mean, the better player, maybe, but I wouldn't want you over this one guy. So I guess the fact that Bellinger, up till this point, he's only missed 6 games the last 2 years. I think that's huge. So I guess I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
It is good to be available, but I think, there are times where the talent is just so good to where, like, for example, I would rather have a 65-70% Cody Bellinger than 100% Jock Peterson. I just think it comes down to who you're going up against, like the other competition on your own team, and how much you can afford to not have that guy in the lineup. So I also have Bellinger at 5. So we agree on that one. I think he's definitely a top 5 player. I will say, though, if you are playing every single game, then that only adds to your greatness. It certainly isn't going to take away for anything as well, too.
Yeah. I guess the only reason I bring it up is because, like, for this list, we're saying top 10 MLB players. I didn't use games played against them. If you're talking greatness, how good they are, I don't use it against them. But if we had a different list where it's like 1 through 10 list of most valuable players or who you'd want to start a team with, I would take that into consideration, and it would be different. And I will definitely get to that in a little bit here. But yeah, so we both have Bellinger at 5.
Sure. So who did you, and I'm not going to explain why I have Bellinger at 5. You pretty much said every single thing that needs to be said about that. And he's in my division, so I see him rake against us every single time we play against him. So, but who did you have at number 4?
So I have Garrett Cole at number 4.
Okay.
I mean, I said earlier, the last 3 months of last season might be the best 3-month stretch we have ever seen. Definitely, I'd say I've ever seen for a pitch in Major League history. It's one of the best 3-month stretches in Major League Baseball history. The dude was going like 7 innings, but like 13 strikeouts and like 1 run allowed, like every single game. It was unbelievable. And I think the only pitcher maybe better than him in baseball is Jacob deGrom. And like I said, I didn't necessarily look at, who's more valuable, pitcher or hitter. I tried to think to myself, is this guy a better, let's just say Cole and Bellinger, for example. Is Cole a better pitcher than Bellinger is a hitter? It's kind of hard to do, but I think slightly, yes, Cole's a slightly better pitcher than Bellinger is hitter. So I have Garrett Cole at number 4.
Yeah, so you kind of talked about like games play, like how much like that plays a difference. And I think for me, that's kind of where it does come into play, as far as I think the pitchers can only do so much. That's why I'll never be in favor. And I don't know if you want to call me a hater or not, whatever. I really don't care. That I'm never going to be in favor of having a pitcher win an MVP award. I don't care if they have the best season in baseball history as a pitcher. That the impact that you go out there every 5th day, could be huge, and you could be the best pitcher in baseball for that every 5th day for 35 games a season. But for me, it's tough to put somebody who really only contributes in about the 5th of the games that the team's playing in,
Well, for instance, I kind of just look at it as the pitchers have their own award. A Cy Young essentially is the MVP of pitchers. So for that reason alone, you could say I'm okay with it. I believe Verlander won MVP 7 years ago-ish or so. I mean, I'm okay with it in a sense. It's just saying you were such a good pitcher this year that we decided to give you the MVP with the Cy Young. I don't have anything against it, but yeah, I mean, if you're talking value, almost, and there's probably, the most valuable pitcher come regular season wise probably is like, 8th or 9th, about where you put them on your list.
Right.
It's just 162 games hitting compared to like 35 games starting. That's if you're completely healthy. Again, playoffs, completely different story. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying in terms of how valuable a starter is compared to a position player in the regular season.
So for my number 4, I have Nolan Arenado. So obviously, I think he's the best third baseman in baseball. That's apparent. If you haven't listened to any other podcast episode that we've done, then maybe this is your first time hearing it. But I think Nolan's the best third baseman in baseball. Offensively, at times, I think gets overshadowed for what he does defensively, which defensively, if you wanted to make an argument that he's the best defender in baseball, I think you could 100% make that argument if you really wanted to. You've won a gold glove
3
every
platinum gloves, yeah.
3 straight platinum gloves. And then when you have guys like Brooks Robinson and Mike Schmidt, who arguably are the best third baseman to do it, already say that Nolan Arenado is pretty much on their path and is, kind of better than them. I think it's tough to put other players there. Hitting wise, he does so much. The only knock in his game is his speed. He's not a fast third baseman, but look at most third basemen in baseball. You're not going to have really very many fast ones out there. But I just think that his impact is so great that he's 100% in the top 5 for sure.
Yeah. Like I said, I did put Bregman higher than Arenado, so that would mean I have Arenado as the second best third baseman in the league currently. But if you're talking all time, I think Arenado might already be like 3 or 4, and that's through 7 seasons. I think Mike Schmidt is probably the best third baseman ever, and I think there's a legitimate chance Arenado could be one when he's all said and done. So this is just currently right now. I mean, I think I'd take Bregman just slightly over Arenado, but for what this guy's done for 7 seasons, unbelievable.
So let me get this straight, Mr. Doetkott. You have just said that Arenado right now is maybe the 4th best third baseman of all time, but
there's not that many good ones, man. Well, it depends what you consider A-Rod, first of all. But I guess let me back up a little bit. I mean, 3 or 4 right now, I mean, maybe not, but I do think he's definitely on pace to be 3 or 4. I have no doubt in my mind that he will be. He's definitely up there, though. There's not that many. Third base, believe it or not, is not that deep when it comes to all time. I mean, it's not like outfield or first base. So, I mean, dude, he's up there. But I think Bregman, for what he did last year, was so spectacular. He had 9.1 WAR that I had to put Bregman ahead of Arenado right now.
Yeah. Well,
it sounds contradicting. I know, maybe it is, but whatever.
No, that's fine. Yeah, you don't care. He's got ladies and gentlemen, he has a shirt with his own face on it. So why would you expect him to care?
Look at that. It's my twin.
That's funny. But yeah, I think for me, what separates the third baseman from each other, I think offensively they're all kind of in sync, more or less in certain parts. I think defensively is really what separates them, and I got to give it to Nolan for sure. Not to say the other ones are defense at all, but
I'm gonna look up all-time third baseman just for the heck of it.
Sure. But yeah, Nolan though, again, pleasure of watching him every single time that he plays. And again, maybe it might be biased that I am able to watch him, but that's just why I have him up there. But
the dude's really good. I mean, there's no denying that. So at some point, some of these players are so good, you could really put him. There's a big range of what you could put him at. So. Oh dang, Chipper Jones. How did I not think of Chipper Jones?
Yeah.
I guess I didn't really think that one through. Wade Boggs, get out of here.
You got over 3,000 hits, man.
So, Aaron Rodgers, Wade Boggs.
Oh, I'd agree. But Wade Boggs ain't no slouch either.
I mean, I ain't going to go through all these, but Eddie Matthews, yeah, that dude's pretty darn good. George Brett, 305 batting average, 3,000 hits. This according to Bleacher Report. Played 21 years though. I mean, give me a break. Aaron, I was only a third of the way there. He'd get that many hits too. He's up there, man.
Oh man. Alrighty. Time for the top three, Nick. Who'd you have at number 3?
Dude, I wanted to put this guy at 1 so bad. This is my boy. I think you know who I'm gonna pick. Christian Yelich. Yeah. I wanted to put him at 1, but I got him at 3. I think now I'll get to this in a little bit, but I think most valuable player in baseball is Christian Yelich. I really think that. If we're talking best, I'll put him at 3. I don't think I need stats back of how good the guy is, but I'll give it to you anyways. He's led the AL in batting average the last 2 years. On base percentage last year, 44 home runs in only 130 games. He had 30 stolen bases, and he only got caught like 3 or 4 times. He won a Gold Glove in 2014 and is up there for best defenders in baseball. The dude does everything you want him to do. And up until that last year where he got injured and missed the last month of the season, he's, for the most part, always been healthy too. So, I mean, the dude's unbelievable. And if he stays healthy, I think all he's going to do is get better. I mean, I know he's not necessarily like, Acuna Jr. or Soto young, but he's not necessarily like, he's only, what is he, 27? But it seems like he's figured out something these last 2 years where I think he's going to get better yet. And if I'm telling you, if I could pick one player right now to have on my team, I'm taking Christian Yelich. I'm serious. But with that being said, I'm putting him at 3. And I'll get to why.
Sure. I also have Yelich at 3, as well too. He has been a guy when he was on the Miami Marlins, and I specifically remember one MLB draft I was doing, and I picked Christian Yelich in like a fairly early round. I think it was like one of the top 5 round. I picked him, and I remember like a couple of my friends were dogging me. Like, I think one of them hadn't even heard of the guy, and I'm like, this guy, you give him a couple of years, and he's going to be great. And he was already great in Miami. He could steal bases. He hit not nearly at the power that he is now, but he could hit. And a change of scenery again. And now look, he won 1 MVP award. If he didn't get hurt, very well could have won another MVP award last season. And just a phenomenal.
In my opinion, yeah. I mean, obviously Bellinger had an unbelievable year last year. And if Yelich stayed healthy, Bellinger still may have won it. But let's say the season ended the day before Yelich got injured. My MVP pick would have been Yelich again. Sure. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yelich is a stud, obviously. These guys, anybody in the top 3 or 4, I mean, you don't need to back up how good they are. They're just that good.
Sure. You have it 2.
To be honest. I have Jacob deGrom at 2.
Wow.
Like I said, that doesn't necessarily mean he's the second most, valuable player in baseball. But if you saying who's best, well, I think Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher in baseball. And I don't know. And so I had to tell myself, is there a better hitter at, is there a better position player at being a position player than deGrom is at being a pitcher? And I think there's only one, which is the guy I have at 1, which I think everybody knows it, but I'll wait to give it up. So I have deGrom at 2. I mean, the dude's won 255 strikeouts last year, led the American League, which, by the way, it's insane that he had 45. He had 71 less strikeouts than Garrett Cole, and he led the National League. That's how many strikeouts Garrett Cole had last year. But and the dude's pitched 300 innings 3 years in a row. Like we mentioned before, if he were a Yankee or like anywhere else, he'd be thought of. I think people would really realize how good he is. The dude is unbelievable, and that's why I have him at 2.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, definitely both agree best pitcher in baseball for sure. Obviously, I had him at 8th. You had him at 2nd.
I think you could take Cole ahead of him, but
Oh,
I do think DeGrom has a slight edge.
right. So for my number 2, I have Mookie Betts. I think he is the second best player in baseball, obviously, because I have him at number 2. But he just, when you talk about 5-tool players, Mookie Betts is arguably one of the top, probably actually the top 2, and I think, again, who my number 1 is going to be, but I ain't going to say it. But Mookie Betts, definitely number 2. I mean, power, average, he can drive in runs, gets on base. He has a cannon for an arm. He can steal bases. Truly is one of the best players in the game. If it weren't for another guy who plays in the American League, I think he probably is number 1. But I have Mookie Betts.
And besides Arenado, Betts is probably the best defender of anybody we've listed so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's won 4 straight Gold Gloves. So
sure. So who did you have at number 1? Now, if you're a baseball fan, you should just probably assume what our number 1s are going to be. But who knows? Maybe he'll throw us through a loop here.
I got Freddie Freeman. No, I'm just kidding. Although he is really good. He's like
it's really good.
I have Mike Trout. And I'll be honest. I'm not the biggest. When I say I'm not the biggest Trout guy, it doesn't mean I'm not like I don't think the dude's not good. I mean, I put him at 1, but I've debated. I debated not putting him there. Most people call me crazy. I probably am crazy. I just said Arenado was down your top 3 all time and 9th right now. Best player baseball. But at the end of the day, Trout's the best. But I want to get back to what I said earlier when I mentioned Yelich. Well, first off, I put Trout at 1 because, the dude's led the American League in on-base percentage, and I believe maybe Major League Baseball 3 years in a row. He's hit 33, 39, and 45 home runs the last 3 years. This last year, had over 100 runs, over 100 RBIs. He hasn't won a Gold Glove, actually, but he is a very good defender. And he doesn't bat like 320, but he batted 306, 312, 291 the last 3 years. And he used to steal a bunch of bases. That's the thing, though. He doesn't steal that many bases anymore. Only 11 this last year. But the reason I said – so Trout's number 1. So don't yell at me too much, anybody, after I say what I'm about to say. But if I can take one player to start my team right now, I'm not taking Trout. I'm taking Yelich. Yelich only played 130 games last year. But for the most part, he's always been healthy. Trout, every single year, it misses almost at least a month. And it's not that he's worse than Yelich. He's better. I put him at 1. But it's not to his fault. But he almost walks so much that Yelich is more valuable than him. For instance, the last 3 years, Trout has walked 94, 122, and 110 times to Yelich's 80, 68, and 80. Now, you may say, well, that means he's better. He's getting on base more, whatever. I used to be a huge advocate of on-base percentage. So trust me, Moneyball used to be I was totally in agreement with that. And it is very important. But Yelich doesn't walk as much, and he's driving in more runs. Now, maybe it's just a product of the fact that Yelich has better hitters around him. Trout, why wouldn't you walk him? Because he's played for up until recently. Now that I know they got Arenado or Rendon and whatnot now. For the most part, it's like, well, why not walk Trout? He's the only guy they got to beat you. So it might not be to his own fault, but I think Yelich is more valuable. I really do. Trout almost walks too much, and he gets injured like every year. But regardless, he's still the best player in baseball.
Yeah, best player in baseball. For me, you kind of brought up the similar thing with Arenado, the best of all time. Right now, Nick, if you're compiling a best of all time, who is higher on that list for you? Is it Christian Yelich or Mike Trout?
Well, all time Trout, because Yelich has really only been in like top 5 player in the league for about 2 years now, whereas Trout's been there like 7 or 8 years. So Trout all time. But
Right.
I mean, I don't know if Trout's played long enough yet to be up there like top 10 all time or anything. But when he's all said and done, he's going to be. I mean, some people are going to say he's the best all time. I mean, I get definitely an argument for it. I mean, I don't know if he's Ken Griffey Jr. or Barry Bonds, but that's that's a debate for a different day because I love me some Barry Bonds. But I mean, Trout for 7 years now could have won MVP. I mean, he could have won MVP 7 years in a row. It's kind of like LeBron in the NBA. So.
Right. I was just about to bring that up. It's like this similar thing. Like, could you give the MVP to LeBron every single year? Yeah, probably.
I'm pretty sure you said that before, so I kind of just stole your take. But.
And that's okay. That's fine. I didn't copyright it. But
what
at
do they
the end
say?
of
The best the best compliment is oh gosh, I can't think of it now. When somebody anyways, I can't think of it now. Maybe I'll think of it and tell you later. Anyways.
But Trout, I mean, the best 5-tool player, it doesn't steal as much bases. It doesn't mean he can't. He gets on base a ton, and I think it's absolutely criminal that he has not had barely any postseason experience, barely any at all.
All right. Did you read that same Twitter post last night?
From Austin Jensen. Well, yeah, but yes. I mean, it's a comment.
That's pretty much what he said.
Yeah, and I was like, credit Austin Jensen on that one because he said what everyone else is thinking. But
imitation is the best form of flattery. That's what I was looking for. There we go.
I knew you get it. But anyways, fun list. It was a good time. Definitely went longer than I thought we would, but it was a great thing. Do you have any sports? Anything you want to bring up?
Anytime we talk baseball, I ramble on. So, anything you want to bring up? Not really. One thing I guess. JD Martinez, I just want to bring him up because I don't think he gets the respect he deserves. I put him at like 12. I think the only reason he's not talked about is because he's a DH, which for some people that's a huge deal. That's like David Ortiz is the best DH ever. Like David Ortiz is amazing, but he's not talked about some of those because he didn't play defense. But honestly, I don't think that should matter. Yeah, that means you're not like a 5-tool player or this great defender. But if you look at JD Martinez and Nelson Cruz, for instance, their numbers over the last 3 years, it's right up there with the best in baseball for offensive statistics. And I think they deserve a little more credit. Just because you're DH doesn't mean you can't be a top 10 player. I know I didn't put them in there, but I have JD Martinez at 12, and I think he very easily could be in the top 10. I just wanted to point that out there because JD Martinez is an absolute stud and doesn't deserve, and never gets talked about.
Sure, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, as far as baseball stuff, topics going on, nothing really. Similar to the last few weeks, nothing going on there.
I mean, they've talked about starting up that in Arizona or whatever, and then I seen a thing yesterday that I don't really like. It was like a abbreviated league where they're gonna play like it would be Grapefruit League and Cactus League, but like for real. Now, I mean, yeah, I guess at the end of the day, all I want is baseball, but I don't really want that. For one, that would mean the Yankees are in the Twins division. I don't want that. And two, it's like, well, if you're gonna play a season, I want it to be the same divisions, the same, schedules and whatnot as you normally do. And I want baseball as bad as anybody else. But to me, it's weird because MLB is trying. It seems like MLB is trying harder than anybody to get their season going right now. But NBA and NHL are the ones that have to be concerned. They're in deep jeopardy of not even having a season. Baseball normally doesn't end until November anyways. So, I mean, there's no saying how long this whole thing's going to last. But hopefully it's not that long. I would think baseball is going to get a season in one way or another. I mean, I hope. I'm optimistic. But if you're gonna play, just wait till you can play it, for real with fans and whatnot.
Right, that's a good point. I agree with you.
I want baseball as bad as anybody else, but I mean,
it's not the same.
I don't want to. I don't want a season that's not the same as
Right.
what we're used to either.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
But I tell you what, I want to go to a Twins game so bad, man. So bad.
Yeah. Oh, I want to go to a Rockies one too. I was supposed to go to Larry Walker's jersey retirement. I had tickets for that game. That was going to be the 19th, so in a week from tomorrow.
I had tickets for would have been last week's Tuesday's game. I actually was going to give those to a buddy, but last week Tuesday I had tickets for, but that obviously didn't happen. Like I said, I told you I have 20 tickets this year, and who knows if I'm going to be able to use any of them.
Oh, that's terrible. But nonetheless, if you want to follow some Twitters, we can talk about sports on Twitter. You can follow myself at Lucas_Dorton, capital L, capital D. You're going to follow Nick at Doetkott. If you want to follow our Twitter page, it is at DND_podcast, capital D's, capital P for that. Like I said, again, next week we will be doing an NFL pre-draft episode with Caleb Sipe. We'll be giving our first round mock draft, so definitely stay tuned for when that comes out, because that'll be fun.
I'd expect a long one.
Yeah, that one will probably be a long one. So if you have some time to kill, which you should, because you shouldn't be doing anything, then that one will be that. But anyways, folks, thank you for listening to episode number 17 of the Dorton and Doetkott Debate Podcast. And until next time, we are out.